Welcome to Cyber Safety Lesson 1, Safeguarding Client Trust Through Cybersecurity. Cybersecurity isn't always the first thing we associate with design, but it plays an important role in how we work. As designers, we handle drafts, conversations, reference files, and early ideas that clients trust us to manage responsibly. This lesson focuses on how cybersecurity connects to design practice and why small habits can have a real impact on client relationships. We'll look at practical ways to protect the materials you work with, not by becoming IT experts, but by using thoughtful professional workflows. Think of this as strengthening the professional side of your design toolkit alongside your creative skills. Before we dive in, let's take a look at what we'll cover in this lesson. Here's a quick look at what we'll explore together in this lesson. By the end, you'll be able to recognize the different kinds of client assets that need protection, not just final designs, but drafts, notes, brand guides, reference files, strategy documents, and early concepts. All of these materials live somewhere in your workflow, whether that's email, cloud storage, shared drives, or personal devices, and how we manage them affects client trust. We'll also look at real examples from the creative industry to see how seemingly small decisions can lead to bigger issues, especially when we're working fast or collaborating across multiple platforms. You'll learn practical ways to share and store files securely using the tools you already rely on, and you'll practice communicating your security habits to clients in a clear and confident way. These skills support strong client relationships, ethical design practices, and professional communication, all important parts of building trust as a designer. Before we get into the details, take a quick moment to think about your own habits. How do you protect your project files right now? Do you back up your work, or does everything live on one device? Do you use folders, cloud storage, or simple email attachments? Next, think of one way a file might leak, even if nobody is hacking anything. It could be a shared device at home, a link that stays open longer than intended, or someone forwarding a file without asking. And finally, consider why security is part of professionalism in design. When clients hand you their ideas, they're trusting you to handle those materials responsibly. Keep your answers in mind. We'll circle back to these questions at the end to see how your perspective may have shifted. Creativity is what attracts clients, but confidentiality is what keeps them. Designers often handle early-stage concepts, internal strategies, unapproved drafts, and even private business information. When these materials are handled carelessly, even by mistake, trust can be damaged quickly. Think about how you'd feel if someone shared your unfinished project or personal idea without permission. Clients feel the same way about the materials they share with you. Good security practices aren't separate from design. They're part of being client-ready. They show that you respect your client's work, their time, and their investment. And when clients feel that their information is safe with you, it strengthens the relationship and builds long-term trust. Client assets include so much more than the final design. They can be logos and brand guidelines, drafts, rough comps, and work-in-progress files, budget sheets and schedules, research, analytics and customer information, vendor lists and contact sheets, notes, mood boards, and strategy sketches. A helpful rule of thumb is this: if your client would care about the file being shared publicly, then it's an asset that needs protection. Even something as simple as a mood board can reveal upcoming product ideas or marketing plans. A vendor list can reveal business relationships. A draft can reveal strategy shifts before a launch. As designers, we see these assets every day, and part of our role is handling them with care. Most cybersecurity problems don't start with a dramatic hack. They usually begin with small, everyday habits that we don't think twice about. So let's slow down and look at a few common risk points that affect designers all the time. One big risk is unsecured email attachments. The moment you send a file through email, you lose control over where it goes. Someone could forward it, download it, or save it in a place where it shouldn't be. And once that happens, it's extremely hard to track. Another risk involves weak or reused passwords. It's so tempting to reuse the same password for multiple accounts, especially when you're juggling design tools, school logins, client platforms, file sharing apps, and social media. But if one of those accounts gets compromised, all the others become vulnerable too. And then there's the convenience factor. Using public links in cloud storage. Anyone with the link feels quick and easy, especially when you're on a deadline. but those links can spread much farther than you expect. And they don't expire unless you turn that feature on. Small habits like these can create big openings, and the key is becoming aware of them before they cause problems. Let's keep going because some risks come not from file sharing, but from the tools we use every day. One risk comes from downloading fonts, brushes, or plugins from unverified websites. Designers love exploring new creative tools, which is great, but some of those free downloads hide malware. If it ends up on your computer, it can expose your client files without you realizing it. Overly broad or wide open folder permissions can also cause issues. If you give a whole team access to an entire project folder, anyone can move, delete, or share files accidentally. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's just someone clicking the wrong thing during a busy moment. And of course, there's the risk of lost or stolen devices. Laptops and phones contain so much information: work in progress designs, client messages, passwords, browser data, emails, and sometimes personal information. Without strong device security, one stolen backpack can become a major breach. Think of your devices as an extension of your creative workspace. Protecting your workspace helps protect your clients too. Let's look at a real example to understand how these risks can play out on a larger scale. In 2025, Nissan's Tokyo-based design studio, Creative Box, experienced a major cybersecurity breach. Attackers claimed they stole around 4 terabytes of sensitive design data, including 3D models, internal documents, and early concepts. Nissan confirmed the breach. And the impact wasn't just about the files. It created questions about confidentiality, trust, and how secure creative assets actually were. Even though this example is from a large design studio, the lesson applies to everyone. Clients want to know that their ideas and materials are protected after a breach. Rebuilding trust requires transparency, responsibility, and clear actions to improve security. Pause and reflect. If something similar happened in your workflow, even at a smaller scale, what steps would you take to maintain trust with a client? Maybe you'd communicate openly, explain how you're fixing the issue, or show what systems you've strengthened. These small decisions make a big difference in how clients view your professionalism. Trust isn't built all at once. It's built through small, consistent actions that show clients you take their work seriously. When you use secure file storage practices, when you carefully manage who has access to what, and when you communicate clearly about your workflow, clients see those details. Even if you never say the words, "I'm being secure," your actions communicate it for you. Designers who take time to explain their sharing process, even briefly, show that they're organized, reliable, and intentional. These habits make clients feel confident that their ideas are safe in your hands. Security is more than a technical task. It's a part of your professional reputation. Now let's look at a situation that could easily happen in freelance work or team projects. Imagine you're finishing a marketing campaign for a client. You upload the final assets to your cloud storage and set the link to anyone with the link for convenience. Everything seems fine, until you learn that the link was forwarded outside the team. Before long, people who were never supposed to see the project have screenshots of it. In this scenario, the client loses control over their launch and may even lose trust in the designer, not because the work wasn't good, but because it wasn't protected. This didn't come from hacking or malicious intent. It came from a simple shortcut that felt harmless in the moment. Every link you share is a decision about who should have access. And when it comes to client projects, making those decisions carefully is part of being a professional. Let's shift from risk to prevention and talk about something simple but extremely effective. Limiting file access. One of the easiest ways to protect client materials is to make sure that only the right people have access, and only for as long as they need it. It sounds basic, and it is, but it's one of the most overlooked habits in creative work. For example, if a vendor only needs the print-ready files, there's no need to share your entire project folder with all the drafts, notes, or early concepts. Keeping access focused reduces the chance of someone opening the wrong file or sharing something unintentionally. You can also set time-limited access, especially when working with contractors or temporary collaborators. When the project ends, the access ends automatically, no extra steps, no leftover links floating around. This approach not only protects your client's information, it keeps you organized. Fewer people in your folders means fewer surprises later on, Small decisions like these make your workflow feel more professional and more intentional. Now, let's talk about a habit that designers don't always think about, but one that can really strengthen your workflow: classifying your files. Classifying simply means giving files a level or category based on how sensitive they are. You might use terms like internal, files meant just for you or your immediate team; confidential, client materials that need careful handling; and highly confidential, early concepts, private data, or anything that could cause harm if it leaked. These labels don't need to be fancy. Even simple folder names or tags can create a system that helps you think more clearly about how to share and store things. This also helps collaborators. If someone sees a folder marked highly confidential, they understand immediately that they need to treat it with extra care. It's a small habit, but it brings clarity, reduces the chance of mistakes, and supports a secure, creative workflow. Let's move into file storage, something that plays a huge role in security. Where you store your files matters. Cloud services like OneDrive, Google Workspace, or Adobe Creative Cloud are designed with built-in protections such as encryption, version history, and controlled access. Using these platforms means you're already taking a strong step toward keeping client materials safe. Things get riskier when files are stored locally on a personal device with no password or on a USB drive that can be misplaced easily. Those options don't have the layers of protection that cloud platforms offer. Another important point is turning on multi-factor authentication, or MFA, for any account that holds client work. MFA adds a second step, like a code or confirmation, that blocks unauthorized access, even if someone guesses or steals your password. Finally, always keep secure backups. Even the most careful designer can accidentally delete a file or run into a hardware failure. Backups help you recover quickly and maintain professionalism, even when things go wrong behind the scenes. Let's expand a bit more on passwords, because this is one area where designers often unintentionally create risk. Weak or reused passwords are one of the most common ways attackers get into accounts. And when you think about how many platforms designers use — Adobe apps, portfolio sites, client communication tools, email, social media — it's easy to see how a single weak password could affect multiple areas at once. Using a password manager helps you create strong, unique passwords without needing to remember them all. It takes some pressure off your memory while keeping your accounts much safer. Adding multi-factor authentication, or MFA, takes your protection even further. MFA creates a second layer of security by requiring a code or approval step after entering your password. Even if someone gets your password, they still can't get in without that second check. Take a moment later today to look at the apps and platforms you use most often. How many of them already have MFA turned on? And where might you add it to strengthen your security even more? Now let's talk about sharing, something we do constantly as designers, sometimes without giving it much thought. Every time you share a file or a link, you're making a decision about security. When you share intentionally, you communicate that you're careful, attentive, and committed to protecting your client's materials. A private link that's restricted to specific users not only keeps files safer, it also sends a message that you value confidentiality. Setting links to expire after a deadline helps keep old files from hanging around longer than necessary. And disabling downloads on drafts is a professional way to let clients view your work without accidentally spreading unfinished versions. These are small, simple habits, but they make a strong impression. When clients see that you're careful with their information, it builds trust and helps them feel confident in your process. Let's look at a case study. This one is a composite example inspired by real incidents in small creative agencies. A PR agency was finalizing a campaign under tight deadlines. To speed up the workflow, someone shared a public cloud link so vendors could review the drafts quickly. It felt convenient in the moment, something that would get the team through a long, stressful day. But here's where things went wrong. That open link was indexed by search engines, meaning anyone online could stumble across it. The early campaign materials ended up appearing publicly before the official launch, and the client immediately lost trust. They canceled the contract and decided not to continue future work with the agency. This situation wasn't caused by hackers, it was caused by rushing and relying on a shortcut that seemed harmless. Pause and reflect. What two habits could this agency have used to stay efficient without compromising security? Maybe creating a secure shared workspace ahead of time or using a private, time limited link with intentional access settings. Small habits like these protect both the work and the client relationship. Let's look at another case study, also a composite example, based on situations many creative professionals have actually experienced. Imagine stopping for coffee on your way to meet a client. You set your bag down for just a moment, and when you turn around, it's gone, along with your laptop. That laptop holds client drafts, project files, messages, reference materials, maybe even saved passwords or login sessions. If the laptop isn't encrypted, if autolock isn't enabled, and if backups aren't in place, the designer is suddenly facing a serious problem. In this example, the designer spent weeks trying to rebuild lost work, and the client understandably chose not to continue working with them after the incident. Simple safeguards like full disk encryption, remote wipe tools, and regular cloud backups could have prevented the entire situation. Pause and reflect. Which two safeguards would have protected this designer? And more importantly, if your own device disappeared today, would your files and client information still be protected? Now let's take a look at a real-world incident. In 2018, a Florida-based marketing and data firm called Exactus accidentally left a massive database exposed on a public server. No hacking involved; anyone who found the server could access it. The database included millions of consumer records with names, emails, phone numbers, and detailed demographic information. This breach didn't happen because someone broke in. It happened because permissions weren't set correctly, and no one realized the server was open to the public. For designers, the lesson is clear. Even if we're not responsible for managing servers or databases, we often work with mailing lists, analytics, client research, and internal files. These materials need careful handling. Pause and reflect. What simple security step could have prevented this? Something as basic as checking access permissions or applying proper protection to the server would have made all the difference. Let's shift into one of the most practical parts of cybersecurity: protecting your devices. Your laptop and your phone are essentially your digital studio. They hold everything: drafts, client notes, design assets, communication threads, login sessions, browser data, and sometimes even private or sensitive files. Here are a few simple steps that go a long way. Turn on full disk encryption so your files are unreadable if the device falls into the wrong hands. Use auto lock so your device secures itself when you step away. Keep your software up to date. Updates often contain important security fixes. Avoid saving client work on public or shared computers. And enable tools like Find My Device or Remote Wipe before you ever need them. These safeguards work quietly in the background, but they provide strong protection and help ensure that a lost or stolen device doesn't turn into a major incident. Finally, let's talk about communication, one of the most important parts of working professionally with clients. Being able to explain how you protect client files can set the tone for a strong working relationship. During onboarding or the initial project conversation, you might briefly outline the platforms you'll use for file sharing, where files will be stored, and how long you'll retain them. This isn't about overwhelming clients with technical details. It's simply about showing them that you treat their information with care and thoughtfulness. A short one-page overview or a quick conversation at the start of the project can build trust before any files are even exchanged. Transparency doesn't just prevent problems, it strengthens your credibility. When clients know you're intentional about security, it reassures them that their work is safe in your hands. Let's take a moment to compare two different sharing choices. Which is safer? Option A public link that allows downloads. Option B, a private link shared only with named users, set to expire with downloads disabled. It might seem obvious at first, but understanding why option B is safer helps these habits become second nature over time. Option B gives you more control, reduces the chance of accidental sharing, and limits how long someone can keep access to your files. These are the kinds of decisions designers make every day, especially when projects move quickly. The more intentional you become, the easier it is to keep your clients' materials protected. Before you click send, it helps to pause for just a few seconds and run through a quick mental checklist. These small steps can prevent many of the most common issues designers run into with client files. Ask yourself, are the right people the only ones with access? Is the file labeled correctly so its purpose is clear? Is multi-factor authentication turned on for the platform you're using? Does the link have an expiration date so access doesn't stay open longer than needed? And is version history enabled in case you need to undo changes or retrieve an earlier version? This checklist doesn't take long, maybe 30 seconds, but it creates a habit of slowing down just enough to protect both your work and your client's trust. Let's pull together the big ideas from this lesson. Treat every client file, from the earliest sketch to the final export, as confidential. Use secure, encrypted cloud storage whenever possible. Limit access to only the people who genuinely need it. Avoid public file links and use time-limited private links instead. Turn on multi-factor authentication across your creative platforms. Keep your devices protected with passwords, auto-lock, updates, and backups. And communicate your security practices so clients know their materials are being handled responsibly. Cybersecurity supports professionalism, respect, and trust in your design work. Every small decision you make contributes to a workflow that protects both your creativity and your client relationships. Let's return to those questions from the beginning of the lesson. How will you show clients that their information is secure with you? What's one concrete step you can take this week to strengthen your file security? Maybe organizing your folders more clearly, turning on MFA for an account you use daily, or reviewing who has access to older links you've shared. Choose one action you can commit to right away. Small changes, repeated consistently, lead to strong habits, and those habits build long-term trust with the people you work with. You've now completed Cyber Safety Lesson 1, Safeguarding Client Trust Through Cybersecurity. Remember, great design isn't just about visuals, it's also about reliability, integrity, and the care you put into your workflow. Every secure password, every intentional share, and every organized folder reinforces the importance of protecting client trust in your design work.